Good day. Today is Monday, August 23rd, 2021. I'm going to do a follow-up from my Saturday's video because unbeknownst to me, Anna von Reitz posted one of her best historic articles on, it's entitled The Structure of the States of America. Now, just like with me making the announcement Saturday, that there is a Mexican standoff, and this should be spread throughout the world because you have to observe and then inform people to know what's going on, where they stand, so where they can go. So that's very critical. That's why the so-called news media just puts propaganda out. They don't actually give news or anything that's really happening. It's all staged propaganda that they put on. And it's full of it so that nothing of newsworthiness can be out. Now, in the same sense but bigger, Anna von Reitz at the same time was giving some history of early United States of America that has basically been forgotten and certainly isn't being taught. And you have to understand those first few years and what happened in order to understand what's going on today. So, I'm going to leave a link to this. Everybody should read it and study. It's very deep, so I'm going to give a little bit of my words on it from a different angle for some people who look at things from a different angle. Now, I was separating myself from the corporate government back even in the 70s, the later 70s, and certainly throughout the 80s, and I really didn't get my stuff together until actually the later 90s. But the way I used to see it was that between 1776 and 1791 was the only real procedure or real happening that was going on with this country as far as gaining. And I realized what happened in 1791 as us starting to fall back and losing the country and falling more and more back into control of the British Empire. And of course that was done even more so in 1913 with the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, and even more so later. But what Anna has taught is that those early states, those early constitutions prior to 1791 are just vacated. They didn't go away. There was just newer stuff that we went into, the newer constitution in 1791, that more and more people started to follow and occupy, just as the corporate state today, the deep state, the bureaucracy, is totally controlling those who produce and those who want to advance. So the corporation has stalemated Mexican standoff and fooled everybody into thinking that they have to follow the corporation, that they have to sign up for the corporation. for the services provided by the corporation. And so it's a big fallacy, a big fake thing that's going on, just like the fake corporate president Biden, and the confusion in Afghanistan because people don't understand the history. Now, a year or two ago, when I was talking to a bunch of Antifa and Black Lives Matter young demonstrators on the street corner, they told me, oh, history doesn't matter, because I was trying to tell them about the civil rights movement in the 1960s and how the blacks and other minorities had gained much more freedom. And they said, no, history doesn't matter. And that's what's being taught to them in these communist schools, just like nothing about the War of 1812 is taught to the people. So how are they going to understand how the British Empire took back this country? If you ignore history, you're doomed to repeat it, and that's what's going on. That's what they teach in these communist schools. These Antifa, I tried to tell these Antifa that they're the real fascists, and they're the one that are the real racist, because, as they say, the blacks have to be brought up to the level of the whites or everybody else. Now, don't get me wrong, we're all equal. We're supposed to be equal under the law, but we're not all equally identical. Some of us have advantages in some areas, and others have advantages in other areas. That's your talents. And if we would focus in on what talents we have, we would maybe be able to feel better about ourselves, because we've all got different talents. So what happened in the Civil War, just like what's happening now under communism, the blacks weren't freed. The blacks were made federal citizens, and everybody fell for it to become a 14th Amendment citizen, which were basically citizen slaves. So rather than the black slaves and other slaves being freed, we were all made slaves under the 14th Amendment. And that's what's happening today. We're all being communized. Like me with the so-called code violations, that my $41,000 dwelling doesn't look like the neighbor down the road that has a $200,000 home. And so the county is basically trying to take the property away from me, or have me take out mortgages, or bulldoze the place and get the bank to build some piece of junk that's priced at $200,000, and it'll blow over in the next big storm because it's under code compliant. Now, I'm really realizing I'm getting off the subject, but it's all the same. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's the same with the local code, bureaucratic, deep state people trying to enforce the codes of the corporation, as it is with the United States of America. So anyway, Anna Van Reitz goes in on this article, detail step by step on between 1776, 1781, 1786, 1787, and 1791, when these different additions were made to the government. And so what we need to do is go back and occupy that Constitution under the 1776. And I realize this article that Anna wrote is very difficult. It's because most of you don't understand your history. And it takes time to relearn your history. so that you understand what's going on today. And so what Anna is doing is showing you the roadmap of getting out of this Mexican standoff. And simply put, the bureaucrats, all they have to do is stop fighting and trying to get the patriots to sign up and follow the corporation rather than the old original Constitution. See, the positive tree of life only comes about when you're freely allowed to choose that. That's the difference between the Aquarian age and the next age. I mean, the age of Pisces, this past age, and the coming Aquarian age. We can't go to war about it and win the war. We have to be allowed to start following the tree of life rather than the tree of good and evil, which the corporation is doing. The corporation wants us all vaxxed, get the jabbed, so that our RNA and our DNA becomes more of the same, more communist, more where we're no longer human, but we're transhuman. We're more and more robotic, controlled by the bureaucracy. So, I realize that's a great deal, but that's only 12 minutes. So the only way we're going to get anywhere is if we have the freedom to follow the tree of life. And we're not saying that they have to give up the tree of good and evil. The corporation can continue. The code enforcers can enforce the codes upon those who are signed up for the corporation. So if they want to continue to degenerate, which they believe that they're becoming more and more powerful and more higher by becoming communized and robotic, they think that that's the future. But the hidden technologies that are out there can't come about under the tree of good and evil, because the corporation wants to control everything, because the owners of the corporation want to continue making profit off the wars. Now, I can actually build a first generation UFO, and there's technologies based on Nikola Tesla that are actually being used by the secret civilizations that are not known to the public. And all this can come out if the positive tree of life is allowed to flourish. And those who follow the tree of life will be able to utilize these technologies that are based on real science, not pseudoscience like the vaxxers are preaching. So anyway, listen to this, study some of my older videos, study Anna's website. Now, I started reading Anna's website when she only had 45 articles posted on her website. Now she's got way over 3,000. And the structure of the states of America is one of the best. It's now that it's out there and can be read, we can understand the history, so we can go forth and repopulate the early Constitution. We can repopulate the Tree of Life. We can go out and the other good thing she's got, she's recording these statuses, because I found out over the decades that all the records that I had, that I filed at the various courthouses, all got deleted. There's no record of the wins that I made in court. All it says is that the cases was dismissed. And a number of years back, I went to check on the one courthouse up in one of the counties in Colorado, and the clerk told me, oh, well, due to your nature of your case, it was deleted except for that it was dismissed. And so then one of the assistant prosecutors was in a back office, and she overheard this, and she comes running out. She goes, no, well, your case, as all cases, when they expire, were deleted because we don't have the room to keep all the records on this. And I just went, it didn't show, but my jaw dropped. Because stuff in the courthouse, that's what makes the government, the records in the courthouse. And after 7 years, you can't say, oh, that's expired. Because the record showed that I won the case because I hadn't given up my power of attorney. And so the driving issues, driving without a license, driving without insurance, driving without license plates, speeding, not giving a right turn signal because when the cop pulled me over, all that was dismissed because I filed papers with the court that I hadn't signed over my power of attorney to them so that they could regulate me. So it was dismissed. That was one of the most important cases in the country. And now there's only a record that it was dismissed. And that's just like what Anna's talking about, the early history, those first years between 1776 and 1791 that have become lost so that we're not occupying the earlier constitutions, so that we're falling for the corporate state, the bureaucracy, the deep state, and we think we can't get out of it. And the bad part is all these bureaucrats, these employees, are enforcing the rules that they think are laws, and they're only codes. And they think that they're actually government when they're only employees of really, really, really rich people who own the corporation. So there, anyway, I hope the weather gets better for some of you. Maybe it won't. Anyway, bye. Have a great future now that you know and are aware of. A positive birthright is now available to you. Bye now.